Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this live. I'm just going to introduce myself very shortly. My name is Carol. I am the founder of Parentally, and Parentally is a platform dedicated to supporting the well-being of new and future parents. And what we do is that, in a nutshell, we connect parents with all the different professionals who can support them throughout the entire parenthood journey. So from pregnancy to birth, postpartum, and the first years of parenthood. So we gather a network of diverse professionals such as doulas, childbirth instructors, lactation consultants, child sleep coaches, you name it, anyone, everyone that a parent may need. And of course, in addition to that, we also share access to community support through our events and also to informational supports through our Instagram account, our blog, and also these live interviews that we do with professionals and experts and that we share on our Instagram feed and YouTube channel. So just a quick word, this live is recorded, so if you cannot make it until the end, it will be shared on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe and follow us on Instagram at parentally.nl. And I'm very happy to be doing this live with you, Zyanya, about a topic I find most interesting and much needed, preparing for fatherhood. Before we start, maybe I give you the floor to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Zyanya. I'm a baby wearing consultant and postpartum educator in Amsterdam. I've been doing this work for over 7 years now. And so my focus as a postpartum educator is offering classes and workshops and private sessions with families as they're usually when they're still expecting a baby, but also in the early month or two after, to help them feel more empowered to understand what changes they're going to go through as new parents, what's normal, and some tips and knowledge to help support those changes.
And I think you're doing such an amazing job in doing that. And I'm very happy to have you as our guest. And like you said, so you launched this course called Preparing for Fatherhood. And this is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Before we really dive into this topic, can you share why you created this course?
Yeah, so I had already been teaching workshops around these postpartum topics with colleagues. So our courses would cover sleep, mindfulness, baby wearing, connecting with your partner, sex and intimacy postpartum. And sometimes I'd also be invited into other people's courses to talk about baby wearing. And just again and again and again, I saw how often women were attending these courses without their partners. If they had male partners, the male partners were often not there. And I think it honestly didn't occur to a lot of them or the dads that they should be there, that it would be important for them to be there. And I just have felt really, just that if we're not reaching both parents in a home, then we're putting the burden on one parent. It doesn't matter what that family looks like. If it's gay parents, if it's even if it's a single mom with someone that's helping co-parent or like a grandparent living with them, when only one person gets all that information, it increases the burden on them. And then also when I go into people's homes for baby wearing consultations, so often there seems to be this implicit expectation that I'm meant to direct my attention to the mother, and the dad is kind of sitting more off to the side, listening, but kind of defaulting his questions and his concerns to the mom. What does she think? And when there's a mom and a dad and a family, I feel that they should really consider themselves both equally competent parents, and that's just not how it goes. So for a long time, all that's to say, I saw this gap that dads needed to be spoken to more, they needed to be invited more into the conversation. And as a society, they kind of felt like they weren't always even allowed to invite themselves in, which I don't think is actually true. Like they should just step in there. But anyway, and I had this idea for this course for a long time, but I'm not a dad, and that would be weird. So I had connected to some men that were working around this area a bit, and I always encouraged them. I was like, I really think this could work. I think it could be really popular. If you need any support, like, I'd love to support you. I'd love to see this happen. But inevitably, there's very few men that work in this space and that had the time or interest to see it through. And so finally, I just reached a point where I was like, you know what, if a dad's not going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And I invited my husband to join me to give me some street cred. And we have a lot of fun. I'm pointing at him, he's sitting over here. But we have a lot of fun teaching it together. And I think, yeah, anyway, the course speaks for itself. The reviews speak for themselves. The course fills up, and the feedback is really beautiful because aside from the material, which I do think the guys appreciate more than anything, they love the space of coming together and making connections, hearing from other dads, and just having that space to be like, I'm nervous, are you nervous? And they're like, yeah, I'm nervous. And then they're like, oh, good. So yeah, I really, really love it.
Yeah. And you've been doing this for a while, and I'm sure you've heard a lot also from dads and talking to each other, and also from your own experience. What is, like, in your own experience, or in your opinion, what are the most, let's say, most common misconceptions that, you know, maybe expectant fathers have about fatherhood, sorry, or like the most common challenges that they face?
I think the most common misconception is two things that are related to one another. One is that you'll hear from guys that give advice to other guys. Usually I hear this in the form of, oh, well, my coworker said this to me. There's not much you can do until they're one anyway, right? And, oh, that one drives me nuts. But the guys hear it a lot, and I think a lot of guys intuitively have like a, is that true moment? But some guys take it in as like, oh, I guess there's not that much for me to do. I'd say that the guys that come to our workshop are a self-selecting population. So they don't come into the workshop generally thinking that this is true, but certainly they've heard it before. And so I definitely take time to break down why it's not true in the workshop to make sure that that bias is gone. So when if someone thinks that there's not much for them to do until the baby's 1 year old, what that's basically saying is that it's the mom's job to take care of a baby. And that the mom that's the other misconception, is that the mom is a more instinctual and important parent, especially for a baby. And that if the baby's crying, or if the baby needs to feed, or if the baby needs to sleep, you may as well just give it to the mom. And so that's the other misconception, is that the mom knows better instinctually. And that, I feel, I have a whole section in the beginning of the workshop to break that down as to why fathers are instinctual parents, that they have hormonal and neurological changes happening very similar to women. And that ultimately a lot of the knowledge that women seem to have is actually just Google, like spending more time looking for answers, or their WhatsApp groups or whatnot. So we're trying to change that. So trying to break that down. And then for challenges, I think what I hear from a lot of dads is a deep loneliness that sets in when the baby is born, that's not often expected. And I hear that from couples. It's kind of at the core of why I'm motivated to do what I do, is to help people understand that ahead of time, that when you become a new parent, you know, the person that was most important to you in the world, your partner, suddenly nothing revolves around the two of you as a couple anymore. And it can be really lonely, like you're handing off the baby to each other to give each other breaks, which is so important. And maybe you're still a great team. It doesn't mean there's something wrong, but that you can be lonely. And then that can lead also to just like, it can lead to mental health issues for either partner. And that dads that are very involved and working full time and supporting their partner's recovery and helping with the pets in the house, I'm sorry. that they're exhausted too, and I think it's harder for them to talk about their exhaustion. Like, I will always say we should keep moms on a pedestal in terms of supporting them, right? Like, that needs to come first. The challenges of returning to work postpartum, the challenges of breastfeeding postpartum, and all of that. But I think talking about dads and supporting them as involved parents doesn't have to take away from supporting moms. And we need to make space to talk about how much of a huge transition it is for them also. And that, again, can lead to mental health issues that fathers can experience postpartum depression, and a lot of them don't know it. And then lastly is the confusion on what role they should be playing or they can play, and how best to step in and support, which goes back to kind of those misconceptions of like, am I important right now? What should I be doing? Should I just leave the house? Like, should I only be in charge of meals and she's in charge of the baby? You know, not really knowing that they can trust their own instincts with the child.
This is so interesting and also so important. And I think, like, my next question, I think there is no easy answer to it, of course. And these are things that you develop during your course. So I think we don't have time to go through the entirety of it. But yeah, for a father, can you share maybe some tips or guidance on how, how to help them through this transition, how to help them maybe prepare and play an active role when they become fathers?
Yeah, I mean, my first tip is to lean in.
Yeah.
You know, if you've heard of, like, we say to women, lean in for work, like, dads, lean into fatherhood, you know, like, go for it. Don't feel like you need to default to somebody else, that you should get educated about what babies need, like, Google it, watch YouTube videos, find accounts you respect that are actually helpful on Instagram, like Parentally, like my account, and like many more that do a lot more content making around parenthood. There's great accounts that I share for fathers specifically, and just get hands-on. I think that I feel really strongly, and I've seen this be successful, the more hours and minutes you spend holding your baby, caring for your baby in those first weeks, is instrumental to how empowered you'll feel in that relationship going forward, because then you're already starting to establish that bond and the way getting to know your baby. And then also just reach out to other dads. There are communities for dads, even if not as many. You can reach out to dads you work with, to your family members, to your friends, and connect with them on that level. I think a lot of men may not speak as much to each other on that level of, like, wow, parenthood. And finding also new ways to connect with your partner, because if you are feeling lonely and you're feeling distant from your partner, you need to reinvent intimacy in terms of, maybe it's just an extra 5 minutes that you intentionally cuddle in bed before you go to sleep. What's the name of my Instagram? It's Adapting to Love, one word. Thank you. Adapting to Love. And that's also my website. Yeah, finding other ways to connect to your partner. It can mean just having a check-in once a day. Yeah, it's very personal.
Yeah.
But I think it's really about just stepping into the moment and going for it, and not feeling like you're a secondary character.
Absolutely. And so I think I would like to go more into the details of your course, to be honest, because it feels really interesting. Could you tell us more about, like, the format, what to expect during this course, and what do fathers learn during the course? Because it's in pregnancy, right? It's before the birth of the baby, right?
Yeah. So we've had dads join that have had a baby that's anywhere from 3 to 6 months old. I think you get the most from the course if your baby's not born yet. You also have the most energy and attention span to take the information in. So the course, I can go through the topics in the kind of the outline. So we start with introductions, of course. The course takes place on Sunday from 10 a.m. to over 2:30-ish. We're usually together for almost 5 hours. And in that time on Sunday, we also have lunch together that I cater. And then we meet again on Friday of the same week in the evening from 6 to 8:30. And then we also share a dinner together that we cater in. And then after that one, the dads all go out for beers with my husband. And I go home to the babysitter. So that's really nice. And actually, besides the content, I'll also say then they all join into a WhatsApp group together with the other courses from the same year. So there's usually about 30 or so guys in the WhatsApp group by the end of the year. And they all share tips and advice, and sometimes they post pictures of their babies and their cats. Like, it's super cute. And they've also self-arranged meetups. They've arranged play dates for themselves at Monty's World and other places.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's really nice to see that they continue to have that community and reach out to each other. And then we offer quarterly check-ins. So our next one is this weekend, where Atish and I get on Zoom at 10 a.m. The kids are downstairs watching cartoons. And for an hour, whoever wants to from all of our past courses can join the Zoom call and just check in. And sometimes they ask questions. Usually they just share about like how things are going. So that's, and they can bring their partners and babies on the call. So that's also really nice. But anyway, so in the course, we start with introductions, and then the first section is on what I call the physiology of fatherhood. And that's talking about the reasons why dads are in fact as much instinctual parents as moms, talking about hormonal changes and such. And then we talk about birth and how to support labor, and I make it very clear that I'm not a birth educator and that you should take a birth course, but it's just talking about some tips about how instrumental dads are. Actually, we see it in studies that when a partner has someone they know closely, intimately supporting them, coaching them, how important that is. I also really advocate for a doula, because then you have this 3-person team, like the dream team. So I just kind of give them some insight into the roles oxytocin plays in birth, and we also watch a 12-minute video from Penny Simpkins that shows actual birth happening. In terms of so it's not so much about like the baby coming out, but it's the labor. So it really shows women laboring and making their sounds, finding their rhythms, working through contractions with partners and doulas supporting them. And that is something we added more recently in the last couple of courses, and the dads have found it really powerful and very, very helpful, because almost none of them have ever seen a birth.
Yeah, that was my question, because like we mothers, most of the time we see like countless births on Instagram and wherever, and we know how it happens, but I was wondering, do dads, see these videos, see these images?
No, getting targeted with the same stuff on Instagram. And then I also realized fairly recently that a lot of dads had never seen a photo or a real baby when it's born. And so some of them were feeling guilty that they were repulsed by their baby, because their baby comes out with a cone-shaped head and a squishy face, and it's purple and it's covered in vernix. And they weren't expecting any of that, because in a Hollywood movie, a baby is born at 3 months with a round face and a smile. So I have one slide that's just like pictures of real newborn babies.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just some wake-up calls like that. And then my husband does a section on supporting postpartum recovery. So we have a slide with a big list of the actual things that women experience after giving birth. It's also kind of a little bit of a wake-up call, but then also just talking about how essential partners are in reaching feeding goals, whether it's 3 weeks breastfeeding, 2 years breastfeeding, bottle feeding, whatever it is, they have a big role to play in their partner feeling seen and supported in that, and how they can support. And we talk about tips for recovery. And then usually then we have lunch. And then we have a section on baby, which is mostly focused on kind of why babies cry, what they need inherently, some basics on how a newborn sleeps and what to expect. And then I demonstrate baby wearing, and then we have tables set up. So the dads get to change poopy diapers. I make my own newborn poop out of I don't like peas and turmeric and vinegar. Actually, I think it's
Love
very
it.
good. So they change diapers on a doll, and we show them, and they can practice swaddling with some dolls. And then I have all the carriers and dolls there, and they can practice baby wearing as well, which they get really into, and they can bring their own carriers and get tips with their carriers. And that always runs overtime. And then we reconvene on Friday, and then they have time before class starts to come with their carriers again if they still have questions or if they want to try a second diaper change. And then we get into, Tish does a section on work, family balance, kind of all the options of how to navigate scheduling your paternity leave, what you're entitled to, how to navigate talking with your manager or boss about what support you need, kind of just tips around like how to say no, what stability to seek. Of course, it's so personal, and we give the guys time to talk amongst each other about what that's going to look like for them. We have dinner together, and then we talk about equal parenting, what that can look like and how to aspire to it. And then the last section is sex and intimacy postpartum, where we talk about why there are so many changes to our sex lives when a baby joins us and how to navigate that. It's not about getting back to sex as quickly as possible. It's about how to be patient and stay connected if there's pauses or if there's mismatched sex drives. And yeah, that's it.
That's it, and that's already a lot.
It's like over 7 hours of instruction. And then they also get a packet that they take home that have like exercises and worksheets that they can do with their partners later on.
I want to thank you so much for going through, the outline, the syllabus of the course, because I feel like already just going through all of these, aspects can already, bring a lot for fathers who sometimes can feel a little bit helpless about, what to search for, what to think of, how to be helpful, how to play an active role, and even just, planting these little seeds of, things you should maybe search or look into or pay attention to. It's already a lot. Just from the practical aspects of the course, I think there is one in September this month and the other one in January, right? But I will put all the details on the caption of the video and the link to your website. And also you can, like, if you are a father or a mother to be and you want more information about this course, you can also find them on Parentally. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I think it's going to be much helpful for all the people who looked at this video, who will look at this video in the future, who will share it with, other fathers to be or new fathers. And just to wrap things up, I would like to ask you one question that I ask to all our guests on this lives. What would be your golden tips to parents?
My golden tip for parents is to think in terms of oxytocin, to think about where you can find it and how. With babies, that can be skin to skin. With your partner, it could be a sweet moment just before you go to sleep or when you wake up in the morning. It can be small dates at home where you've just put the baby to sleep and you only have to go to bed soon, but you just sit down together and play one card game. It can be putting on some music in the house and just having a dance together for 3 minutes as a family. Baby wearing is a great way for dads and moms to bond with their babies. So to me, I think that's where you see the most successful families, is that you're riding the challenges. You get tired, it gets rough, you get cranky, but you're just finding those little moments. It doesn't have to be something really time consuming,
Mm-hmm.
and you seek out those little opportunities for oxytocin, it makes a world of difference. There's a term for it, which is triadic synchrony, and it helps the whole family run more smoothly as a team.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I think that's a great advice. I love this. Thank you so much,
You're
Yanya.
welcome.
We've come to the end of this live, but thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to have you in this live. Thank you to all the viewers who watched this interview. Again, it will be shared on our YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe. I wish everyone a beautiful day. It was really nice to be back on this live interviews, and yeah, see you again soon.
Thank
Bye
you. Bye.
bye.